Hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Shamshad. We are delivering one lecture on bronchogenic carcinoma. This is very important lecture. So, lung cancer is one of the commonest and the most fatal neoplastic disease all over the world. 1.2 million deaths per year. Incidence is rising in the developing countries. The maximum cases are seen between the age of 50 to 70 years of age. Most common cause of cancer death in male, while in the female, it is the second most common cause after the CA breast. So there is some data about UK and USA. You can see that male to female ratio is 5:1 previously, but now it is very minimal. So 1:1 ratio or 3:1 in some cases. What is the etiology of lung cancer? The most important factor in the production of the lung cancer is the smoking. And second is the air pollution. And number 3 is certain occupations. Smoking, pollutions and occupations like asbestos, aluminum, arsenic, uranium, nickel, cobalt, chromium, cadmium. Industries using these chemicals and these minerals, their workers are more prone to develop lung cancer. Aromatic hydrocarbons, for example, benzene. Workers in the petrol and the benzene group, they are again in high chances to get lung cancer. One is the cause of this lung cancer is the genetic. Certain genetic makeups, they are more prone to get lung cancer. If the lung is diseased, like fibrosis of the lung, that is fibrotic, these lungs are also more prone to develop lung cancer. For example, scar cell carcinoma. This develops over the fibrotic lung. Cigarette smoking is the commonest etiological factor. As I have told you, 85% lung cancer deaths are in the smokers. Smoking increases the risk to develop lung cancer as compared to a non-smoker, about 8 to 20 times higher risk. Smoking, if patient is also smoker and worker of asbestos industry, there is 50 to 100 times higher ratio to develop lung cancer as compared to a non-smoker. Risk correlate to the number of the cigarette smokes per day and the duration of smoking. So we calculate it into the patch years. How the patch year? Number of cigarettes smoked per day multiplied by the number of years smoked divided by 20. And it is estimated that 20 packs year and more has the higher risk to develop lung cancer. 15% lung cancer patients are non-smoker. 5% are passive smokers. Passive smoking means that the one person in the family, for example, husband is smoker, then the wife is the passive smoker. Recent report of higher death rates from Southeast Asia causes the deep concern. In our part of the world, incidence of lung cancer is very much increasing. It is because of the smoking trend that is increasing in the third world. What is the pathogenesis? Predominantly epithelial in origin. These lung cancers are epithelial in origin. Carcinogens like smoke or cadmium or cobalt, these damage the DNA and protein and lipids of the cells. Multiple genetic cellular alterations also occurs. Mutations of the tumor suppressor genes, activation of oncogenes, and the chronic inflammation. This is the pathogenesis. Chronic inflammation leading to the mutation in the cells, activation of the oncogenes in the body. This also leads to the development of the lung cancers. Classification. Lung cancer is broadly divided into two types of cancers. small cell and non-small cell. The total number of about 20 to 25 and sometimes 30% cases of the are of non-small cell, small cell, sorry. Non-small cells are 6 to 70%. The major types of non-small cell lung cancer is the squamous cell, adenocarcinoma, large cell. These are the three major types of the non-small cell lung cancers. Squamous has got 20 to 30% of the total. Adenocarcinoma is 25 to 30%. Large cells is 10%. Adeno is usually seen in the non-smokers. Other types are adenosquamous carcinoma, salivary gland-like tumors, carcinoid tumors, sarcomoid tumors. But the broad, you have to remember the broad classification of the lung cancer is small cell and non-small cell. This is a WHO classification of the lung cancer. It is very explanatory, but you don't need to remember all this classification. Only the small cell and non-small cell classification is sufficient at your level. Clinical presentation, how this presents. Very important thing. Excuse me यार जरा देखना ये क्या शो कर रहा है मेरे से तो नहीं कंसर्न ये देख सकते हैं clinical presentation. It presents in a many different ways. So broadly, you remember that there are symptoms due to the presence of tumor, symptoms that are paraneoplastic, that is away from the, not due to the presence of, it is due to the physical presence of tumor, but in other parts of the body, there are certain presentation that is called paraneoplastic. So it's the variations, chances of finding of asymptomatic opacity. Sometimes patient is totally asymptomatic. You get an X-ray chest, there is an opacity. Extremely advanced disease leading to death. Depends upon the tumor types, location, and stage. This is the, so presentation depends mostly upon the type of the tumor, location in the lung, and what is the stage of the tumor. Primary tumor, there are respiratory symptoms due to local invasion of the tumors. There are symptoms due to metastasis of the other parts of the body. There are non-metastatic symptoms that is called paraneoplastic syndromes. Excuse me यार ये स्टक कर गया जरा देखना आगे नहीं जा रहा जी clinical presentation. Primary tumor causes cough. 60% patient of the lung cancer, they had present with the cough. Cough may be productive, sometimes may be dry. Then 10 to 25% of the patients, they present with hemoptysis, that the blood in the sputum. The other symptoms patient usually present with shortness of breath, wheeze, stridor, anorexia, weight loss, and bronchoria. What is bronchoria? This is excessive production of salivary-like secretions from the alveoli. This is mostly seen in adenocarcinoma of the lung. So the main symptom is the cough, then hemoptysis, shortness of breath, wheeze, anorexia and weight loss, and sometimes bronchoria. Patient may present with SVCO. What is SVCO? Superior vena cava obstruction syndrome. Patient has got plethoric face, swelling of the face, and engorged neck vein. The neck vein, this is seen in the apical tumor of the lung. That presses the superior vena cava, so the drainage from the upper part of the body, that is the head and the neck, is obstructive. Neck veins are enlarged, but they are non-pulsatile. Patient may present with Horner syndrome. This is ptosis, hoarseness of voice, recurrent laryngeal nerve. Particularly on the left side, there is a tumor, left hilar tumor. They presses the left recurrent laryngeal nerve, so the vocal cords are paralyzed and patient present with hoarseness of voice. Patient may present with dysphagia. Dysphagia is due to if the central tumor and it presses the esophagus. So when it presses the esophagus, there is a difficulty in swelling of the food, maybe liquids or solids. Raised hemidiaphragm. If the phrenic nerve is involved, then that side of the diaphragm is paralyzed. It raised up on the x-ray, you can see patient has got dyspnea, and this is one of the clinical presentation of these symptoms. Patient may present with pleural effusion. If the tumor from the lung parenchyma involves the pleura, there is pleural effusion, develops pleural effusion. It is mainly hemorrhagic type of pleural effusion is seen. Patient may develop pericardial effusion. Pericardial effusion is due to the involvement of the pericardium with the malignant cells, leading to exudation of the fluid, and there is a pericardium is filled with fluid with this effusion, and it is generally bloody type of effusion. Chest pain. What is the main reason of chest pain? One is due to the involvement of pleura. Second, there is involvement of the rib cage. It is a when the tumor on the peripheral part of the chest, when it invades the ribs, there is a severe type of chest pain, and this pain is such a agonizing for the patient that even the narcotics are needed to relieve this type of pain. Brachial plexopathy, that the brachial nerve involvement, then the patient may develop with claw hand. There is mostly ulnar nerve involvement. There is atrophy of the hypothenar eminences, and the ulnar nerve area, there is involvement of sensory and motor involvement. No, patients sometimes present with the metastatic presentation due to the mets of in the different parts of the body. Lung cancer then present with, for example, in the liver. If mets go to the adrenal, then patient may develops with adrenal involvement. The mets can go to the brain, can go to the bone, can go to the draining lymph nodes, and distant lymph nodes can go to the from one lung to the other part of the lung, and sometimes skin, subcutaneous deposition of the malignant cell. So metastatic involvement of the different parts, then presentation is due to the involvement of that part of the brain of the body. For example, if the brain is involved, then which may present with meningitis, patient may present with SOL, and he may develop seizures and loss of consciousness. What are the non-metastatic presentation, that is paraneoplastic syndromes? It is present on 20% of the patient presents with non-metastatic that is present with paraneoplastic syndromes. These are the endocrinological and neurological types. So two groups of the paraneoplastic syndrome. What is the endocrinological presentation? That is hyponatremia. Syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormones. Then patient may present with signs symptoms of hypercalcemia. thyroid dysfunction, hyperglycemia, gynecomastia, acromegaly. Then there is involvement of pituitary gland. Patient may present with Cushing syndrome, acromegaly, and patient with carcinoid syndrome, flushing, attacks of flushings, and cough, and at the same time, rise in blood pressure. What are the neurological presentation in the paraneoplastic syndromes? LEMS, Lambert-Eaton myasthenia gravis-like syndrome. What is the difference between myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton? Lambert-Eaton, there is difficulty in the early morning, in the movements of the muscles, while in the myasthenia gravis, this weakness develops in the last part of the day. Their patient may present with peripheral neuropathy, for example, ulnar nerve involvement. Patient due to brachial plexus involvement, cerebellar degeneration, encephalitis, encephalomyopathies. These are the neurological presentation of lung cancer. What are the hematological presentation? Patient may present with anemia. This anemia is anemia of the chronic disease, microcytic hypochromic anemia. And patient may present with leukocytosis, may present with thrombocytosis, may present with thromboembolism. Patient, this every neoplast जो है, neoplasm of the body, that is thrombogenic in nature. So these patients has got increased tendency to the thrombosis. Patient may develop like syndrome ITP, idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, non-thrombotic endocarditis, and vasculitis. These are the hematological presentation of lung cancer. That is, again I will repeat, anemia, leukocytosis, thrombocytosis, thromboembolism, ITP, non-thrombotic endocarditis, and vasculitis. What are the musculoskeletal abnormalities of the lung cancer? Patient may present with clubbing. Clubbing is very gross, stage 4 clubbing, then hypertrophic pulmonary osteoarthropathy. That is, in this case, there is a gross clubbing. Patient has got drumstick type of clubbing, stage 4 clubbing. At the same time, there is involvement of the adjacent joints of the hand. Right. Patient may present with dermatomyositis, that is inflammation, and polymyositis. Large muscles of the body may are inflamed. Patient is unable to stand up from the squatting position. So these are the musculoskeletal abnormalities of the lung cancers. Hematological presentation: anemia, leukocytosis, thrombocytosis, thromboembolism, ITP, non ये क्या कहता है अब स्टॉप शेयर इनको बुला लो इसको बताओ हेलो ये क्या आ रहा है इसमें अच्छा ठीक आ रहा है आप नहीं अभी तो चलेगा लेक्चर अभी तो लेक्चर चलेगा ना ये ठीक है आप सुन रहे हो साथ उधर so next is the how to diagnose cases of lung cancers. So first of all, there is a clinical presentation of the patient, that is then examination, then on examination there may be patient is asymptomatic, normal examination or general physical examination, there may be clubbing, involvement of peripheral nerves, there is involvement of the lymph nodes. Chest examination, there may be, you may find bronchial breathe, lung collapse, there may be pleural effusion like this. So what the lab investigation we are going to do that first of all is the X-ray chest. Assalamu sir. X-ray chest. So X-ray chest may present, will show there may be, if there is endobronchial lesion, X-ray chest will be normal. If there is mass, there may be collapse, there may be effusion, there may be white out one lung. These are the different presentation. I will show you the X-ray pictures of the X-ray lung, of the CA lung. Then next examination that is mostly not done very commonly, but is very important, particularly in central tumors, that is sputum cytology. We send the sputum for malignant cell of the patient. If the lab reports comes, the malignant cells are positive in the sputum, so our diagnosis is strong. Then next is fiber optic bronchoscopy. Fiber optic bronchoscope helps to see the lesion that it helps. We can see the bronchoscopic lesion directly. And from the bronchoscope, we can get different brushings and biopsies, and we can label whether it is small cell, non-small cell, or a benign lesion. FNAC, this is mostly done from the lymph nodes. If peripheral lymph nodes are enlarged, if the peripheral part of the lung there is a mass, it is not in the reach of the bronchoscope. Then fine needle aspiration is done and the slides are made, and it is done percutaneously, and then it is sent to the histopathology. And the results will reveal whether it is a malignant lesions or not. Then you must have, maybe you have listened to the names of EBUS and EUS. What is EBUS? Endobronchial ultrasound. This is in the bronchoscope, there is a small gadget attached. That is a probe of the bronchoscope. That is a very small probe that goes to in the lung with the bronchoscope. And we can see the lesion, and we can have an ultrasonic image of that lesion. At the same time, EUS, endoesophageal ultrasound. इसमें गैस्ट्रोस्कोप के साथ आप अल्ट्रासाउंड प्रोब अंदर जाएगी, और these are the mostly seen in the posterior lymph nodes of parts of the mediastinum, posterior mediastinum lymph nodes. These are usually seen by EUS. CT scan without contrast or with contrast. CT scan with contrast is helpful in the diagnosis of the CA lung. Then there is PET scan, positron emission tomography, isotope bone scan. This is helpful to rule out the bone VATS. Video assisted thoracoscopy. Peripheral part of the lesions in the lung are seen by the VATS. There is a hole. We make a hole in the thoracic cavity, and the video scope is entered from that cavity, and we directly visualize the peripheral part of the lung. And if there is a lesion, then the sample is taken from that part. Mediastinoscopy in another procedure. Mediastinum is opened from the suprasternal notch, and mediastinoscope enters, and you can see the lymph nodes, different stations of the lymph node. There are 14 stations. About 10 to 11 are reached through the mediastinoscope. And if there is some suspicion, we can take the biopsy samples. This is only for to see the extent of involvements of the tumor. MRI has little role, but in the apical lung lesions of MRI is helpful in the apical lesions of the lung. Pulmonary function test. This is done if we are planning surgery for the resection of the lesion. Then the pulmonary function test, we can note whether the vital capacity, to see the vital capacity and FEV1. That if allows us, then we can do lobectomy or pneumonectomy. X-ray chest. This is the most important investigation. About 5% of the lung cancers are asymptomatic and diagnosed incidentally on X-ray chest. Patient came to us with some other reason. We get an X-ray chest and by chance there is a lesion. These are about 7% cases of lung cancer. These present like this. There is no sign and symptoms. Nearly always abnormal by the time patient present with symptoms. But most of the cases, that is 93% cases, X-ray chest is abnormal. Patient on X-ray may show hilar mass, peripheral mass, commonest presentation. Commonest presentation of the CA lung on X-ray is hilar mass, perihilar mass, or some lesions in the lung parenchyma. This is an X-ray of the X-ray chest of CA lung. You can see there is in the right hilum and a parahilar area, there is an opacity with irregular borders. This is a case of central tumor of lung cancer. No, this is an X-ray of the apical lesion of the lung cancer. Apical part of the lung is involved. These are usually present with SVCO or Horner syndrome. This is an X-ray chest of whiteout. There is a major bronchus, left main bronchus में इसमें tumor leading to the whiteout of the whole of the left lung. Left lung is collapsed. There is also a fusion, and it's on X-ray. It shows a whiteout lesions. And the trachea, if you can, it is not a good X-ray. Trachea, you can find it is deviated towards left. There is a black shadow in the superior mediastinum. That is trachea. Trachea is pushed or pulled towards the left side. It is the collapsed left lung with obliteration of the angles. This is a solitary lesion on the CT scan of the chest. There are multiple mets on the CT. So this is the CT presentation with multiple mets. Their involvement of the both lung, right and left lung, there is involvement. While here there is only one lung is involved, that is right lung, and it is a solitary lesions. There are multiple mets in the bilaterally involving both the lungs. So diagnostic. First of all, we have discussed X-ray, then CT, and sputum cytology. It is very useful. This is mainly positive. Sputum for malignant cell is positive in 60 to 70% cases of the central lesions. Squamous cell carcinoma and small cell carcinoma, they usually present central lesions. So much higher in post-bronch. If we send the sputum after bronchoscopy, then yield is much better for the malignant cells. Sputum cytology is unfortunately not done routinely recommended, but it is a very good test. It gives us, it is a non-invasive method and gives us the diagnosis. It is reserved for those patients who cannot have bronchoscopy or other invasive procedures, have central placed tumors. Fiber optic bronchoscopy, most useful invasive, but at the same time it is invasive technique. And what we are going to do with bronchoscope, we are getting washing, bronchial washing. We irrigate the bronchus with the normal saline and pull back that material, that saline back, and send this washing for malignant cells. This is also called bronchoalveolar lavage, brushing. A bronchoscopic brush goes from one channel through the bronchoscopes, and this brush gets malignant cells from the tumor surface and we make slides and send these slides to the pathology lab. Another procedure done through bronchoscope is the lung biopsy. Biopsy forceps introduced from the lung, from the bronchoscope, and we take tiny pieces of the tumor and send this in formalin to the histopathology lab. TBN, transbronchial needle aspiration. This is done subcarinal lymph nodes, then the needle is pierced through the carina into the subcarinal nodes if they are enlarged, and we get a sample and send it to the lab. So bronchoscope, what we are going to, we can, first of all, we see the tumor directly with our eyes, and we can get brushing, washing, biopsies, and TBNA, and post bronchoscopy, we send the sputum for malignant cells. More than 70% of the lung cancer is visible on fibro-optic bronchoscope. Diagnostic yield is visible. Invisible tumor is 80 to 90%. So it is a very helpful diagnostic tool. From brushing, from biopsies, from TBNA, and from washing, 80 to 90% chance that we can get the diagnosis. Diagnostic yield in non-visible tumor is 45 to 55%. EBUS, endobronchial ultrasound. This also helps to get samples. This is the bronchoscopic view of the lung cancer. It has involved the whole of the lumen of the bronchus is involved by the tumor. So the mostly these there the peripheral part, there the collapsed lung and pneumonia is there, but the opening of the bronchus is obliterated by the mass. That is, this is another bronchoscopic picture. One bronchus is open and other is obliterated with the mass. So from this mass, if we can get brushing, we can get biopsies, we can get washings. So it will give us the type of the tumor. Another bronchoscopic view, one right side bronchus is open, on the left side it is obliterated with the tumor. Another bronchoscopic view at the level of carina. Carina is very sharp and the left main bronchus is obliterated with the mass. This type of, if the main bronchus is involved, then the whiteout of the lung is there, that X-ray we have seen previously. So bronchoscope is a very helpful in the diagnosis of the lung cancer because we can directly visualize the lesion, we can get washing, we can get biopsies, we can, no, the CT scan. It defines the, what helps, CT scan helps us to see the lesion, site of the lesion, its size it gives us, and the lymph node involvement, so we can stage the disease, whether stage 1 disease, 2 disease, stage 2, stage 3, or stage 4 disease, and so we can design our management for these patients. So CT scan helps in defining the lesion, its size, it helps in the staging, CT guided. We can also, a peripheral lesion, it is not in the reach of the bronchoscope. Bronchoscope can reach only 5 millimeter diameter of the bronchus. And if it is less than that, bronchoscope cannot reach that part of the lung. So CT guided FNA, if the peripheral lesions, so FNA needles are introduced under the guidance of CT scan, and we get the specimens and send it for histopathology. CT also helps us in the detection of the mets. For example, adrenals, upper part of the abdomen, adrenals, livers, or other parts of the body. Then the mets are detected with the help of this CT scan. Pulmonary function test. How this is going to help us in lung cancer? especially in patient who need surgery. If we plan, for example, stage 1 disease, non-small cell lung cancer, stage 1 disease or stage 2 disease, so if we are planning surgery, before going to the surgery, we must do spirometry of these patients. Preoperative spirometry, that is FEV1, force expiratory volume in 1 second, if it is more than 1 liter. These patients can tolerate surgery without severe post-operative breathlessness. So we are concerned that after surgery, patient may not develop breathlessness or his lung function is not much deteriorated. So before surgery, we do spirometry, and where we concentrate on FEV1. If it is more than 2 liters, we can safely do lung surgery in these cases. These patients have got little chances to develop breathlessness after surgery. Number 2, a predicted post-restrictive FEV1 more than 800 ml. Post-resection FEV1 more than 800 ml is indicative of decreased post-operative complication. So after surgery, if you again do the spirometry and FEV1 is more than 800 ml, this indicates that post-operative complication has less. Lobectomy, if disease is limited and we decide to do lobectomy, there is 10 to 15% loss in FEV1 generally. Pneumonectomy, if resect the whole infected lung, then is 20 to 30% loss of FEV1. Transfer factor, DLCO, less than 40%, moderate to high risk. This is not, this is some higher level things, but what pulmonary function test in these cases helps preoperative and postoperative assessment. Thing to remember that FEV1 more than 2 liter, these tolerate surgery without severe postoperative complications. PET scan. 18-fluorodeoxyglucose positron emission tomography. This is the abbreviation is PET. It is very helpful when CT and bronchoscopy results are equivocal. Lesion less than 1 centimeter may be identified by the PETs. So small lesions cannot be identified by bronchoscope, cannot be identified even with CT, not even identified with X-ray chest. But PET scan, if this facility is available, PET scan can show us some lesions in the lung which are less than 1 centimeter and maybe malignant lesions. It also helps in the staging. If the lymph node has got some malignant infiltrates, PET scan will help to show us those lymph nodes or parts of the lung having the malignant cells. Useful for mediastinal lymph nodes and MET assessment. But the problem with PET is it is very limited availability. In our city, Lahore, there is only one place, that is Shaukat Khanum Hospital. They have got this PET scan. Otherwise, in government setups, this facility is not available. And one bad thing, it is very costly. So, very small lesions, PET can help. So, what is the sequence of diagnostic investigation? Central or peripheral lesion, mediastinal lymph node involvement, neck nodes, isolated mets. So if there is lymph node involvement, peripheral lymph node involvement, then the diagnosis is very easy. From the peripheral nodes, we can get the biopsies and it will help us. Now, staging of the lung cancer. Why staging is important? It is important to manage to plan the management of lung cancer. Staging of the lung is very important. So, crucial to determine proper therapeutic approach, comprehensive workup. Small cell lung cancer, it has got two types, limited 25 to 30% and extensive disease. So small cell lung cancer has got two stage. One is limited stage and second is extensive disease. Mostly the patient with small cell, when they present to us, they are in the extensive stage. What is the non-small cell? For non-small cell, we have got TNM staging system. And there is stage 0 to 4. So staging, why it is important? Staging is important to, to plan our management in these cases. In small cell, simple, limited disease only one lung and it is under one. And extensive disease, there is involvement of other part of the lungs or other part of the body, then there is extensive disease. One in the non-small cell lung cancer, TNM staging system is usually employed. T1 tumors less than 3 centimeters, T1A, T1B, T2. This is an extensive type of classification. Usually at your level, it is important to remember only non-small cell lung cancer, stage 1, T1 and T2. That can be resected and chemo or radiotherapy can be given afterwards. Small cell lung cancer staging. Two-stage system is generally used due to simplicity and clinical utility. Limited disease. It is defined as a disease confined to the ipsilateral hemithorax and within a single radiotherapy port. When one radiotherapy port they cover the whole tumor, then it is limited disease. And what is extensive disease? It is defined as evident metastatic disease outside the ipsilateral hemithorax. Disease involving ipsilateral hemithorax, disease involving other parts of the small lung cancer, then we can label it as extensive disease. For, for the planning of the treatment in these cases, the WHO has given us a performance status and it is designed one is Kornowski scale and second is WHO Zobrod scale. What is performance status? In this status, we assess whether this lung cancer patient is symptomatic or asymptomatic. If he's symptomatic, then how much symptomatic he is. This is very important to plan the treatment of these patients. If patient with stage 2 is asymptomatic, we can, or stage 1 asymptomatic, we can do the surgery straightforward. So WHO is Zobrod scale is simple. Stage 0, patient is totally asymptomatic. Stage 1, symptomatic but ambulatory. Patient can do able to carry out light work. Number 2, in bed patient. Stage 2, this stage patient is in bed less than 50% time of the day, but he is able to live at home with some assistance. Stage 3, patient remains in the bed more than 50% time of the day and is unable to care for himself. And number 4, the patient is bedridden. So before starting the treatment, we have to consider the stage of the type of the tumor, stage of the disease, whether involvement, lung involvement, other parts involvement is there, and performance status of the patient. So, treatment depends on the stage of the disease, performance status of the patient. For this, there is a term used, multidisciplinary team approach. What is multidisciplinary? In the European countries, in the advanced countries, there is a one team for the lung cancer patients. In this, excuse me, ये क्या हो रहा है इसमें अभी ठीक हो गया So the multidisciplinary team contain one pulmonologist, one oncologist. There is ठीक आ रहे उधर oncologist have, and there is also is multidisciplinary nurse, and there is also a pharmacist. This team, then they had a meeting, then they decide, and a radiologist is very important part of this team. They decide about the treatment of these cases. And what are the treatment options we offer to these patients? It is surgery, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, combination of any of the two, and in the last, nothing can be done, only palliative treatment, just symptomatic treatment. Depends if this is very much extensive, you cannot do surgery, and performance status is very poor, that is for these patients are candidate for palliative. So what is the prognosis of the lung cancer? Overall, 50% 5-year survival in these patients is only 5 to 15%. Only 5 to 15% patient of the lung cancer live for 5 years. Mostly die within 1 or 2 years after the diagnosis. No significant improvement in the last 30 years. This is very unfortunate. Nothing new from the last 30 years. We can't help to the patient from the last 30 years. There is no new diagnostic tool for early diagnosis or in the management of these patients. So we cannot, so it is the same. Prognosis is the same from the last 30 years. So tumor markers, there is a race against time, but at the same time, but unfortunately, nothing new development from the last 30 years to save these patients. There is one screening method, for example, in the CFO, there is a screening, very good screening method. CS survey, there is a screening method. We can detect the early, very early that these tumors, but in cases of lung cancer, there is no diagnostic screening method. So there are large trials for the efficacy of the sputum cytology and repeated X-ray test, but no use. These trials were done at Johns Hopkins and Medical Institutes, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, Mayo Clinic. But unfortunately, there is no good screening method is still available for the early diagnosis of these lung cancer patients. Screening does not reduce mortality for lung cancer. Screening for lung cancer is not recommended. Still question mark. There is some screening method was adopted, and there is research is going on the fiber optic bronchoscopy. Patient who are more prone to develop lung cancer, chronic smoker, can we do bronchoscopy periodically to see the endobronchial lesion? CT-based trials have also been done. So reduce lung cancer mortality with low dose CT scan. These are the patients, this is done on the patients. National Lung Screening Trial Research Team 2002 to 2004 enrolled 53,454 patients in 33 centers in the United States. Positive screening was there only 24 to 2% with low dose CT scan and 6.9 with radiography. What they done? They, after 6 to 1 year, these the high risk patients, they had regular CT scans every year, and they were diagnostic. They were able to diagnose early tumors only in 24.2% of the cases. So still it is not a good tool. American College of Chest Physicians recommends 2002 low dose CT scan in high risk cases. Who are the high risk cases? Age more than 55 to 74 with 30 pack year or more cigarette smoking history. Current smoker or who have quit smoking within the past 15 years. What is the doubling time of the tumor? This is someone question sometimes asked. Small cell grows very rapidly. In 30 days, it's doubling time. Squamous cell, 90 days takes. And adenocarcinoma is a slow growing tumor, lung tumor. It takes 180 days to develop. 30 doubling times the size of the tumor is 1 gram. Earlier screening is possible at 30 doubling time. Tumor has gone up to the 30 doubling times, then its size is 1 gram. With 35 doubling time, its size becomes 8 grams. With 37 doubling time, size is 64 gram, and with 40 doubling time, it is about 1000 gram. So the only hope in the lung cancer is the prevention of lung cancer. That is, we should stop smoking and advise our younger generation not to smoke. So what to do? Stop smoking or stop breathing? I have tried to give you some brief overview of this lung cancer. I hope when you go through your book, you will be able to see and understand what I have tried to tell you. So, in short, the message is lung cancer. There is no screening method. Cigarette smoking is the major cause of this disease. It is divided into two types: non-small cell and small cell. And treatment depends, and the diagnostic tool for this is X-ray chest, bronchoscopy, fiber optic bronchoscopy, and peripheral lesion PET scan. From peripheral lesions, we can get FNAC, and histopathology reports will confirm. And sputum cytology is also good, diagnostic for the central tumors and for malignancy. And for management, we divide into, depends upon the stage of the tumor, and secondly, performance status and age of the patient and spirometric values of the lung function. This leads to we design the treatment accordingly this time. And there is no definite screening method for the lung cancer. In certain centers, low dose CT scan is devised for this, but still the results are not so good. And previously it was the disease of males. Now male and female both are equally involved. In the latest data is available, male to female ratio is 1 to 5, 1 to 1.5. So I hope I will be able, the basic idea of the lung cancer you have got. Now you go through your books and read it. If there is some question, you can mail me and I will give your answers. लो बच्चे हो गया मेरा लेक्चर.